All right, we're visiting with Ambassador Tibor Nagy Jr., Vice Provost of International Affairs at Texas Tech University. Welcome to the program. How are you? We're talking first and foremost about Cuba.
Right.
Now, knee-jerk reaction is, President says, well, we're going to normalize relations with them, but guys over in Cuba, they're 90 miles away. But anyway, we've had sanctions, economic sanctions on Cuba, which has basically stunted the country for 50 years.
Yeah. Basically, we have been the only ones that have stuck to that. When it started out, the whole world was with us, and then bit by bit, everybody fell away until now it's just us, but we're the 500-pound gorilla in the neighborhood. So that has really mattered. But the Cuban dictators have used that as the excuse to why the island has not had any economic development, when in fact it's been their poor governance and their dictatorial powers which has kept the Cubans enslaved and poor.
Now let me kind of just throw my, some thoughts out there. And these aren't comprehensive. It's just, I have so many about this thing, but the thing is basically what you have communist, basically it's a communist type regime. They sided with Russia years and years and years ago. They haven't really been good to their own people. They're, as far as governance, they're probably as guilty as anyone of anything you could possibly think of. Is there any good in this besides
absolutely
besides $100 in Cuban cigars
absolutely.
a day?
This is how we win. What we're doing, in fact, is we are sneaking the Trojan horse into Havana. And America's real power, it's not necessarily our government or even our military, it's our soft power. It's the sense of Americanness, it's our culture, it's our internet, it's the styles, it's our music. And that's what is going to now end up in Cuba, and that's going to wash away the dictatorship, I promise you, within 5 years.
That quickly?
Yeah. I had experience with this myself as a member.
Okay, write that down on your calendar.
5 years.
Wow.
I bet you.
2019.
Yeah. As a Hungarian, escapee from communism, I was a member of the Hungarian community, and we were dead set in the late 80s against liberalization of American trade with Hungary. We had the same mindset as some of the Cubans do. And they did it, the Americans did it, and that ended up being one of the big fissures in the Soviet Empire, along with Afghanistan, along with oil prices. But it was the Eastern European countries that started cracking away from the Soviets, and they couldn't deal with it. So it was, in fact, the West opening up to the Eastern European countries, which was one of the huge chinks in the Berlin Wall, which washed them away. I predict the same thing will happen with Cuba. We have taken away the excuse for the government to be a failure, and the Cuban people are going to come out en masse. Dictatorships tend to end when things get better. They don't end when things are awful. I predict 5 years, people are going to look around and say, oh my gosh, if we had only done this several decades before. Mm-hmm. We will see. But I think, I don't often give Obama praise. You guys know that. But I think this may be the single achievement of his two regimes, like Nixon in China.
So what you're saying is if you fire 100 rounds in a box, you're sooner or later going to hit the target.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just don't keep shooting at the exact same spot.
Okay, we're talking with Ambassador Tibor Nagy Jr. We're talking about Cuba, and what he forecasts is the demise of dictatorship within 5 years. So we've got that on the calendar.
Right.
Today would be the 18th day of December, so we're going to mark that down on 2019.
Give me till the 31st of December 2019.
Okay. We can cut you that slack. Hey, also, when we come back, I want to talk to you about Russia and Putin's whining, saying that the economic demise and hardship that is falling upon our Russian friend is America's fault. Hear, hear. It's 8:14. Tom Collins and Laura Mack, Lubbock's First News. It is Thursday, Christmas, a week away. We're talking with Ambassador Tibor Nagy Jr., Vice Provost of International Affairs at Texas Tech University. Hey, Ambassador Nagy has made the prediction that the dictatorship in Cuba will end by December the 31st, 2019. So we get a little more than 5 years and ticking. And that's because you think American culture and just...
I think it's going to wash away the regime. It is absolutely going to wash away the regime. Geopolitics in Latin America are going to change. This is hugely bad news. What Obama's doing with Cuba is hugely bad news for the Venezuelans, because, you know, the Venezuelans were very, very close to Cuba. I think that's one of the decisions the Cubans took, was looking at what's happening with the price of oil and what's happening with Venezuela. And they don't have too many friends left in the world. They see what's happening with Russia, and they're looking right next door, 90 miles up the creek, so to speak, to Miami, and that's where their future is going to be.
No, I'm asking you this just because I saw, what's his face, Castro. He's 80-something years old. Raul.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Raul doesn't look like, you know, his stomach is very settled. What's going on? How do you think that the leadership in Cuba views this, or are they too stupid to understand your prediction?
Oh, I don't think they're too stupid to understand at all. I think that probably within their regime there is a split, and they've probably had this argument back and forth, back and forth. I think that the Castros and their close friends are making a bet, which they're going to lose, and that they can manage, quote unquote, this transition to some type of regime which is more like China's. Because they'd be happy with that. Because, you know, the Chinese get to be rich and to keep the communists in power. So the Chinese leadership is very happy with how things are going there, although they're also riding a tiger, but it's a longer-term tiger. But the Castros are going to lose that bet because they are so much smaller. They're 11 million people, and they are so much closer to the United States. I mean, we are the global behemoth, politically, economically, militarily. You saw the reactions in the streets of Cuba. Those were the ordinary people. You know, they were jubilant. They were overjoyed. The U.S. Cuban community is changing. The older ones, kind of like me, you know, who still remember communism and living communism, they're the ones that are dead set against the United States opening up, quote unquote, to the Cuban regime, whereas the younger ones don't care. The younger ones want to go visit Cuba. They want
because
exchange.
it's a family thing, it's an economic thing, and all they can see is like what's right in front of them. Here's the thing, though.
Why would people be opposed to this move?
Well, it's ideological. Like I said, being a member of the Hungarian community, I understand, because your heart says that these are a bunch of SOBs and we want to keep kicking them because they deserve to be kicked and they don't deserve to be, quote unquote, rewarded. But people forget. Like I said, we are putting a Trojan horse into Havana.
There are other ways to
and
win.
It's not going to be American soldiers popping out of the Trojan horse. It's going to be Americana, American culture, and it's going to sweep all before it.
Well, basically what you're saying is the people on the island of Cuba, essentially after they soak some of this up and get a taste of the culture and everything else that goes with it, that people are going to look at each other and go, hey, this Castro guy, he's kind of full of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a juxtaposition of that, along with Castro's not going to live forever. And that's when it's going to happen, is when the people that are behind them, they're going to look around and say, okay, the old man's gone. This is the time.
In simplified terms, Laura, if you've been bullied at high school or at school by a certain particular person for years and years and years and years, through all the years growing up, elementary, junior high, high school, and then all of a sudden, the big bully buys you a slice of pizza and then says, have another slice of pizza, and then says, as a matter of fact, have a cigar. Pretty soon, that's what you're saying. These people are just going to go, oh, you guys say these people are bad, but how bad can they be? Because things are better because...
Yeah, what we've done is we've taken the fig leaf away from the Cuban government. And it's a long time that we should have done that. But, we kept trying the same thing over and over again, these sanctions. Mm-hmm. Well, there's still a lot of steps to be done because Obama can't unilaterally end all the sanctions.
Right.
But I really think the Cuban community is going to start putting pressure on our politicians to say, okay, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And business community, too. Because the business community is always ahead of the politicians.
Right. Well, the American
Always.
Farm Bureau has come out and said, we're all for this.
Yeah, let them buy American
products. It's good for
products.
farmers and ranchers.
Because they're buying Canadian stuff and European stuff now. They like our stuff better.
Sure.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is how much money do they have? How much buying power do those people really have right now?
Well, right now it's minimal. But again, you unleash their economy, it's amazing how quickly people will respond to economic forces. Mm-hmm. Look what happened, and I saw it with my own eyes in Eastern Europe. You know, in Hungary, how quickly they went from pretending to work to actually working.
Yeah, that's interesting concept. We'll see what
So
happens.
it appears it's a smart move by our president.
Yeah, one of the very few, but yeah, I'll give him credit.
You know,
on this
like I
one.
said,
You got to hand it to him on this one.
You know, if you shoot 100 rounds in the box, you know, and you can't hit the target once, you know,
you just cannot be gracious, can you?
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Okay. This was amusing this morning at 4 a.m. when I turn on the news and I see Vladimir Putin sitting there blaming the United States, you know, for the economic woes of his country. And, you know, saying that it's the sanction. Well, duh. Why do you think we sanctioned you,
point.
stupid?
Well, and also, of course, the price of oil.
Well, yeah. I mean, because, I mean, in layman's terms, Putin is sucking right now.
Well, people have to remember that Russia is not so much a state as a energy exporter with nuclear weapons, because they have really nothing else going in their economy than exporting energy. They make no products. They make no services. It's a long-term losing hand that Putin has. He's just doing the best to play the cards that he has for the short term that he has it.
Okay, now this is an interesting fact. You know, that an old KGB guy, you know, is kind of the King Kong of a country like Russia. They also announced this morning that he is Man of the Year for the 15th year in a row since he came to power in 1999.
Yeah.
Man of the Year, according to whom?
He's the Russian Man of the Year.
Oh, Russia. Okay.
Well,
There's a lot of men of the
he
year.
was the second most influential person, according, was it to Time magazine?
Well, yeah, last year. Yeah, because, I mean, you know, because you know who is not.
Manning up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there ain't no other
Hey,
way to say it.
Hitler was an influential man, too.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
what he accomplished.
Yeah, he
so,
was,
I
but
mean, that doesn't mean that that's a good thing necessarily.
Putin, I think, said that they will get their economy in order in 2 years. That would be incredible if he manages that.
Okay, we're putting that down December 31st, 2016.
Yeah. That wasn't my prediction. That was his prediction.
Yeah, we'll see you then, Putin. Yeah, that's just.
But he remains popular in Russia because, you know, we have to remember we cannot project our own pain thresholds on other people. The Russians are used historically to taking pain. As a matter of fact, the more pain they get, the fiercer and the more patriotic they become.
Well, and see, the thing is
That's just weird.
I mean, it's a breeding process, and it really is, because these people are born and raised in, you know, the ideology that America is bad, no matter what, no ifs, ands, or buts.
Aren't there young people trying to break out of that?
There
mold
are,
and that
but
way of
they're
thinking?
still a minority.
They take them out behind the woodshed and let
Right.
them have it.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, unfortunately, a lot of them, the most talented people leave. You know, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of Russians there are living in London because they don't see the opportunities at home, unfortunately, because those are the people that Russia needs
Right.
for itself to transform.
You know, this is kind of like the people from Pennsylvania. You know, if you go into Charlotte, North Carolina, 9 out of 10 people that you run into are from Pennsylvania. I don't know why, but they just, you know, they're smart enough to know that it's too cold up here, so I'm moving.
Yeah,
down
have
there.
you been to Western Pennsylvania in the winter? There are
Brutal.
two seasons there, August and winter.
Yeah.
I have been there.
All
And
right.
they're like 50 inches of snow. It's unbelievable.
Hey, man, thanks for coming in.
Sure.
Ambassador Tibor Nagy Jr.,
Have a
Vice,
great rest of the week.
Vice Provost
Have
of
a
International Affairs at
Great
Texas Tech.
Christmas.
Well, same to you. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.